All right. Hello, everyone. It's Katrina here from Blue Borage. I'm in New Zealand talking with Charles Dowding. Oh, you're in the UK, I assume. I don't know what part of England, but I've asked Charles to hop on and talk to his fans in New Zealand, Aotearoa, New Zealand, because I know you're a very popular gardening figure here. And I've got some topics I'd like to chat about. I know you had a suggestion about covering some things around observation and research and what we can do as home gardeners. But for people that don't know you, kind of podcast style, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Getting up to see here. So I'm always been a gardener, a market gardener since 1982, and always organic, always no dig. And in the early days, organic was more important, but mainly because nobody really knew about no dig, and nor did I much. It just felt the right thing to do. And lately, I've been learning myself a lot more about soil and the value of the no dig method, and beyond gardening, actually, just in terms of thinking outside the box, is probably become as important for me as the actual gardening method itself. A sort of life message in a way. Might sound a bit strange, but I can explain more. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at now. And I love teaching. So as well as my gardening, I'm 64 now, so I'm getting on a little bit and slowing down a bit outside. But that's partly because I really want to spend more time sharing what I've learned and interacting with people. The gardening world is, I love it. You know, there's so many fascinating people I meet and great conversations to be had. So yeah, let's go.
Let's go. So I reached out after I saw you do a biodynamic 500 stir, and I was quite shocked at some of the negativity in the comments. And I'm curious if you were surprised or if you've seen that and you're used to it and how you deal with it.
Well, yeah, it's I'm not too shocked actually, because I've had it a bit all my life, you know, even like starting out in the 80s being organic, you know, which now feels quite okay. You know, not everybody does it, but it's not sort of controversial, I don't think. And in those days it was, and so, you know, I would get some negative comments then, but it's always, I think, what I've learned is to keep them in perspective and not be overwhelmed by it. And I know it's easy to say that because, you know, one nasty comment is easily outweighs 1,000 really nice ones. And how, yeah, so how do you deal with that? I don't know. I just find I can. I look on it as a lesson to learn, not necessarily about what I need to do, but you know, I think there's a lot of people out there with problems, to put it bluntly. So, you know, it's them venting off their issues, and so accepting that helps. And I think also there's lately debates are not really happening anymore. Opinions have become too polarized, and so there's not much meeting ground in the middle. And that's what I'm always trying to foster. So if I when I get negative comments, I really don't react. You know, if you fly off the handle and meet fire with fire, that's never going to take you to a good place, especially on the internet. So I'm just being very calm, and I'll make some sort of bland comment and try and defuse them a bit, because you know, they maybe got a problem. But also, might sound a bit grand to say that, but I think you know what I mean. So the there is one thing I do take issue with, and I will argue with any time, is the dominance of what I might call rational science, analytical science, that you can only take as valid what can be weighed and measured, that kind of thing. And that's obviously where biodynamics falls totally outside that spectrum, which is why I would say is the main reason why it's not accepted, because basically, you know, scientists, anything they can't measure, when I say scientists, I mean, say conventional, for want of a better word, mainstream scientists, if they can't measure it, they tend to discard it or call it superstition or whatever. And yet there's so much going on in nature that we don't yet understand, and certainly that we can't measure. So, it's a chance. I don't mind taking a bit of flack, because it's always a chance to reach new people with new ideas and perhaps have a bit of a debate after all. And one thing I do notice is that when I put up like that post you saw that caused a bit of consternation for a few people only, really, including bots, I think, actually, to be honest, that's a whole nother thing. But it definitely reaches people in a positive way, and there were comments like, oh, I've always been interested in this, thanks for sharing out, I'll have a go, that kind of thing. So it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah. And one of the DMs you sent, you mentioned how you enjoy the 500 stir from a perspective of it being a chance for you to put your intention into the water, that you find it empowering, like it's not a recipe you're following and instruction someone's telling you to do. And
Yeah.
it's if you could speak a little bit about how I think some people get so overwhelmed and it seems so dogmatic, and it doesn't have to be, does it?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's a bit of a mistake actually being made by some people in any organization. What I've noticed, in a general way, people cluster too much into committees and groups and allow themselves to be subordinated to what they perceive or have been told is a superior knowledge or authority. And that's where the life lesson bit comes in. We all really need to learn that to trust ourselves more, our own feelings, intuition, and that's empowering. That's the empowering bit, because you realize then you can have this knowledge and ability. And it's true in biodynamics, sadly. I feel that I'm a bit of an outsider, so you call me up if I say anything that's not right, but as I see it, Rudolf Steiner died soon after he gave his first lectures in 1924. And I think he died towards the end of the 20s, wasn't it? And
25, yeah.
Oh, he died in 1925. Right. Okay, so that was 1 year after. Well, so there wasn't time to really take any kind of process forwards and how this was going to be turned into useful knowledge for farmers and gardeners to use. And one thing a quote of his I read, if it's true, he said, this is a starting point. You need to develop this. And yet it's got written down as though it's like the Bible. And this is where I think I've tried reading his original lectures, and actually I couldn't. I was really looking forward to it. It's like, oh no, I got bogged down in the technical details and everything, because maybe that's where his mind worked a bit. But that's not it for me. It is about this finding this connection, and that's where what I like about the biodynamics as I use it is it's an avenue, it's a way, a path into connecting more with nature and feeling different aspects that we don't talk about normally, like the universal energy coming down. But not only biodynamics, actually. Just on the water stirring, it's so interesting that. Are you familiar with the work at all of Viktor Schauberger, the Austrian forester? Oh,
Yes.
right.
And I watched a documentary. There's something he invented. They hid it in order to make money off industrial processes rather than nature-based solutions. I can't remember what the machine was he built, but was it something that was able to levitate?
Yes, he invented a flying saucer, which apparently was so successful it broke through the roof of the building that it was being built in. And someone flicked the switch at the wrong point, and it literally just took off. And that's the kind of thing he could do, and it was very valuable technology, and it did get appropriated. Most of his discoveries were hijacked just before he died. He got stuck in Texas. So that's another whole story. But what made me mention him was the lovely story of when he found a farmer. He went looking for this farmer who was renowned in Austria. This was in 1910 for being the best farmer and having the best crops, and like nobody was quite sure how he did it. And so Shelby thought, well, I'll go find out. And he found the man in his barn stirring the water. So this was in 1910, 14 years before Steiner mentioned it in his lectures. It's an old-fashioned way of pulling in energy, cosmic energy, and spreading it out on our land. And what this guy was doing, though, because obviously in 1910 he didn't have the horn manure, or he might have actually, but what he was doing was singing. So he was putting sound energy into his water. And for me, that was a really interesting observation, and something that all of us could use. You know, whether you're not a singer, you could. That's why I was saying intention. We're putting that intention into water, whatever it is, however you feel you can do it. You can energize that water, and then when we're flicking out the water, we just do it with paintbrushes actually, and I just feel it's like, wow, this is energy bombs going onto the soil and enlivening. In obviously some way I can't measure, except I can see the growth is abundant afterwards. But there's so many other factors, you know, it's because it's no dig, and I'm using great compost and all of those different things, and quite a few more actually I can share with you if you want. But you know, just doing it all, I see the biodynamic horn manure for me as one part of many aspects of great gardening and farming.
So now on a day-to-day basis, in terms of observation, you're even if you're not measuring in a traditional scientific way, you're always taking information in and then reacting and responding and observing what the plants do. And would you agree that that's something that a lot of home gardeners are doing intuitively? Like
Yeah, I hope
it's
so.
like cooking, it's like parenting, it's like exercise. We notice something, we address it, and then we see what happened as a result, right?
Yeah, so right. Yeah, and this is where we need to hold on to our power and not, in any sphere of life, not allow so-called voices of authority to, you know, tell us what to do basically. And coming back to biodynamics, you know, that's what I see happen too much, because I feel that the people in the organization who I've met, not all obviously, but you know, quite a few I'd say, they're too in awe of because it can get quite complex and all these sort of planetary stuff and everything. Yeah, I think it can put people off actually. And so yeah, like you say, do your own experiments. And like I run here with Dig No Dig, my 2 trial beds, doing quite a few actually, and always interesting what you find out. Anyone could do this kind of thing. The difficulty in gardening though is actually isolating one variable, because there are so many. With Dig No Dig, it's not too difficult because everything can be the same except one bed is dug and one is no dig, and all the compost is the same, the plants are the same, the harvest, the planting dates are the same, the watering is the same, and then you can just see what the effect of that one variable you've isolated. With biodynamic, I'd like to do it, but it's not quite so straightforward. And to be honest, I found it difficult once I've got that brush in my hand and flicking out the energy. I find it hard to leave out any little bit, you know.
I know.
So there you go. But I don't think it would be quite so clear cut. And because there are so many other variables, I'm pretty sure this would be a fairly small one. It wouldn't be as dramatically obvious and different as Dig No Dig, say. And also where you're interrupting the structure of the soil in that case. With biodynamic, it is more energy. So visible difference would be small. And possibly even beyond our measure, you know, it might be, say, the vegetables just had better quality. I found this actually with Dig No Dig a bit, and they look amazing. The leaves have a sort of luster to them and a glow, and the color's not quite the same. It's more of a sort of yellow, glossy green, not yellow, but shiny, bright, vibrant green, rather than on the Dig, the leaves are a bit more metallic, blue, green, not so glossy. So things like that. But funnily enough, when I try and take a photograph of that, it doesn't really show up in the same way that you can pick it up with the naked eye. I just have a feeling with biodynamic it might be something similar. So my time is limited, and I love it on social media when people say things like, "Hey, why don't you do a trial of this, that, or the other?" You know, as though I've got limitless resources, time, and actually, no, I'm not a research station. And it's such a pity that, you know, if we could have a dedicated research station to so many more things, it would be great. It would need to be manned or run by very well-intentioned people, because, you know, these things can, you've got to be clear about what you're doing and do it very strictly, but yeah, could be done.
Yeah, I've got two hot compost piles outside my window there that one's had the compost preparations and the other one hasn't. And it was a challenge put to me. And I kind of looked at the person and said, well, I never have enough to build two piles at once. Like
Yeah,
that's a huge amount of green waste. But I'd been away for 5 weeks through spring and I was sitting there thinking, well, actually I do have enough green waste. I could do it this week. So I'm interested to see. No.
look forward
Now,
to see that. I think that's a really good idea what you're doing there, because that should be, there should be a difference, shouldn't there? Or something probably you could see on the smell, color difference, all sorts. In fact, you
yeah,
give
I
me an
mean,
idea.
I've made lots of piles with the compost preparations, lots of piles without, but I can't compare them if they weren't made on the same day in the same season with the same materials and the same weather conditions and enough of those same variables. That I think this is the first time in 10 years that I've gone, okay, I'm up for it. Yeah. So
Right. Yeah, and even then,
it'll be
you've probably
interesting.
got slightly different intention, because yeah, you'll probably personally be preferring the compost preps, won't you?
Well, as I made the two piles, I didn't decide which one was getting the preps until they were done. And I put a poll up on Instagram. Do I add the preps to the left pile or the right pile? I was ambivalent.
Oh,
But
fantastic.
now that the preparations are added, I am curious. So there's an intention.
Yeah, lovely.
It's like a
Okay.
question. Are you different? How are you different? But that didn't start until after the preps were added. So yeah, we shall see. Now, I don't know how much time you've got, but I am itching to ask you about your vision of the future of gardening and food resilience and soil health and the role of your average home gardener in healing the planet because we're in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, again, comes back to us actually having power to do a lot more, I think, than might be realised. Obviously, as long as you can get hold of a bit of land. In the UK, I think that might be more of an issue than with you, perhaps. Although I wouldn't, in any city, obviously, how much access to land you have. But growing at home, I do see some lovely photos on social media where people have got creative with containers on balconies, in alleyways, any space where there's a bit of light, basically. And don't underestimate how much you can grow, particularly of the leafy vegetables. Just getting into the practicalities here a bit, because what I always want is for people to feel encouraged, and so to start with something that's going to give a quick and definite result. So if you like greens and salad leaves, for example, that's a point I'd always say, have a go at that in the beginning. You'll be amazed how much you get if you haven't done it already, as long as you're on top of slugs and all that kind of thing as well. So there's always something to learn. Don't underestimate that side of it. But just to answer your question, I say we are really important. We can make much more difference than mainstream media will lead on, and that's a whole nother story. Mainstream media's got really corrupted these days, and don't pay too much attention to stuff you might hear and read out there. Just we need to get on with our own lives and do what's really important to us, and spread that knowledge and energy in our families and communities. That's where the difference is going to happen. I feel it's not going to be some kind of top-down magic solution of any kind. And so it is really important that all of us do as much growing, eating, then you get more healthy. Do you know, I had an amazing comment on Facebook recently. It's so cute. A guy from Montana, Wayne Burleson, and he was saying that he does outreach. They do a lot of that, or some people do in the States. It's really good, going all around the world, and he's teaching people how to make compost. And then he thought, I'm not eating enough of my own homegrown produce. And, I'm always talking about it, and increasing awareness, which is wonderful, about the gut biome being the same as the soil biome. I mean, for us gardeners, that's one of the best bits of knowledge, isn't it? So, any of you who haven't heard about this, who might be listening, do check it out. But basically, if you eat a bit of soil, you're just going to get healthy. And what Wayne said is he noticed, like, with eating more microbes from his garden bit of soil on his vegetables, that kind of thing, not only did he lose weight, he said he lost 12 pounds just like that. Then he stopped taking so many pills. He's 81 years old, by the way. And then he said, my brain really clicked into gear and I started thinking much more clearly. And now isn't that an empowering piece of knowledge? You know, or anybody listening can take that away with you and use that information, and you will find that. I've found it as well. You know, I've upped my game in the last 12 years, really, eating more vegetables, more produce from my own garden. And I was, well, I separated from my wife, long story short, but basically we were eating meat more as a family then, and I'd still eat occasional meat. I'm not totally vegetarian, but eating a lot more vegetables. And basically that's mainly why I don't feel the need to eat meat much. It's not that I don't like it or don't approve of it. It's more that there's so many wonderful plants out there that are giving fantastic food. And yeah, I would say, you know, even getting older, I'm thinking much more clearly. I'm feeling more alert and lively. And so, yeah, this side of it is just wonderful. And that is within reach of anyone who can grow their own food.
Thank you. I think as you're in the middle of winter and we're in the middle of summer, it's like, come on, New Zealand, we can grow. And I know commercially we grow enough for something like 40 million people. The population's 5 million. But if we could feed ourselves less, then the commercial growers could export more. And for countries in the world that can't feed themselves, we can help. But
yeah,
anyway,
you've got amazing situation.
What else?
Sorry.
Sorry, my internet's cutting out. Now, New Zealand is a small country compared to where you are. If you were to run an experiment with the population of 5 million people here, what would you challenge us to do if we could kind of do what Charles says for a year? What would you say?
That's a big one. Well, I would make soil the key. If anybody's not no dig who's listening to this, you know, it's such a simple method. It's so approachable, easy, quick, time saving. It's probably the biggest aspect of no dig in a time when, you know, who's got spare time basically. So you're saving time. You can grow more, and it will have better flavor, more quality. Reach out to other people. I would say, you know, there's endless scope for teaching and sharing this knowledge, and so the more of us do that, that also makes a huge difference. I had a lovely comment in lockdown from a woman in Melbourne who'd started a community food garden at the base of a block of flats, and she'd it was literally just, it was lockdown, but she was allowed to do the garden, thank goodness, and people were allowed to come and eat it. Yeah, thinking back to those crazy times, it's mad. But basically, one woman came up to her after lockdown and said, I haven't been able to speak to you before, but I'm so grateful for this garden. It saved my life, basically, because she'd lost her income and she'd been eating entirely from that garden that this woman had created. And yeah, you know, who knew that could happen? So all of us making small differences like that, I think, can be huge. And like you say, it'll, in your case, in the macro, New Zealand, it might make a difference, say, to the balance of payments, whatever. But I think much more than that, it's the bits you can't measure, and the health benefits to everybody is what's really going to count. Go for it. You got something.
Yeah.
You got something.
One more question. I saw something with you holding up a book, No Dig Gardening for Kids. The No Dig for Kids. Is this a new book? You're doing gardening for children? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that, and then I will let you go.
Yeah, I've realized that we've got to reach the kids, because they actually, kids really get no dig. That's one thing I've noticed. So it's a great teaching opportunity and a chance to get children enthused about food growing, gardening, nature. And they love, like in compost, they love all the bugs they see and the worms. I mean, worms are so visible and cute, and I've not yet seen a child who is not attracted to worms and picking them up and playing with them even. So, wow, what a great point of entry there. And then once you get them enthused about that, and that with no dig, you know, you haven't got the endless weeding and sticky boots and all that kind of thing. So it's a chance. I see it as a real great opportunity. So I wrote the book. It wasn't my idea originally. I got approached by publishers who said, why don't you do this? This is such an opportunity. And it's been interesting reception to the book. In the UK, it's selling okay. It hasn't been a sellout, but it has sold out in the USA. And it's been printed, it's been translated to Chinese apparently, and there's 5,000 copies printed in China. So you never know who you're going to reach. And that's a bit my approach. I'll put myself out there as much as I can because I want to give everyone a chance, hopefully, to learn about Dowding, it's this beautiful method, and play with it if you want. But children definitely do want to. And so that's an avenue we're exploring. We're running a webinar, actually. If anybody wants to join, it's entirely free, 17th of January. It'll be a Zoom webinar. You can just click on, you need to register first. And we've got 5 people from around the UK mainly who are running projects and just saying in 5 minutes what they're doing, how they're doing it, as an example, then to inspire anybody listening, how you could do it, whether it's in school or home ed or whatever situation you're in with children, because they're going to be the future. And I'll just mention one guy who's a head teacher at a primary school in Lincolnshire, and he's managed to bring the gardening into many aspects of the curriculum in the school. So he's got it in the science and the maths, because they weigh the produce and record it and all this kind of thing, make data sheets. And wow, what a fantastic way of bringing maths and science to life, where you've actually got food that is your subject matter.
Wonderful. Was there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share with the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand?
Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you. Maybe just a quick word on biodynamics, but just to clarify, or if anyone's curious, I'm not what I would call a biodynamic practitioner. I don't follow the whole sort of thing for whatever it is, but I really value parts of it, and that's very much my approach. I'd recommend it that there's so much good stuff out there. It's like, how much of it can you do, and have you got time to do? But because of where we are time-wise, I'd love to mention one thing, which is about energizing your soil in a very simple way using sticks. And because you're coming up to the longest day now, it's less relevant to the UK at the moment, because it's something you do at dawn on the longest day. And farmers used to do it in the parts of Britain where they were trying to grow early daffodils, for example, to warm their soil for the whole year ahead. So you take 5 sticks in your hand and you put them, you place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around your property. Enclose as much of your property as you can within that shape. It's an irregular 5-sided shape. Nothing perfect about it. You can use any old stick you want, like a bit of bamboo or a stick of hedgerow wood, whatever it might be. The important thing is, coming back to what we were talking about right at the beginning, is intention. So you are envisaging, imagining, in sending your energy into the shape you're making around your property, enlivening and energizing your soil and plants, and that effect lasts for a long time afterwards. You can amplify it by repeating it for 2 or 3 weeks after that. And the one important thing about it is, so you put in stick 1, stick 2, stick 3, stick 4, stick 5, and then you go and touch stick 1, and that makes what's called a solar energy field or dowsing field. I hope I haven't lost too many of you here. Sort of might sound a bit wacky. All I can say is, farmers do this. This is not something sort of pulled out of the ether as some mystical magic. It's shown to work. I do it, and the beauty of it is you just need 5 sticks and 20 minutes of your time. This is why you won't read about it in any mainstream publication. There's no advertising revenue to be made for something like this. This is just something that any of us can do. So have a go. 21st of December for you is coming up, your midsummer, and it's really fun. Have a try.
It sounds fantastic. I think we could do a bit of a social media challenge. show us your 5 sticks and do a time lapse of the perimeter of your property. Yeah.
Well, yeah, whatever.
Thank you. I am going to stop record, and this has been a pleasure.
Oh, great. Well, likewise, Katrina. Thank you. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to chat with you much, but I really like the sound of what you're doing with your compost